I like the direction you're going with it. It looks really nice as far as the changes that you made so far from what I saw the first time. And most of what you are doing is exactly what I would have said then as well. So that makes me feel better, at least what I'm seeing through the animation. There is a couple of things that I would suggest right now. Is this hand here on the right? It comes in and there's a couple of things here. That's good. That actually coming out, kind of stopping and pausing and retracting, like pulling back. I'm looking at it like that. I think that you need to maybe I would try to hold it a little bit longer right here. Um, and then as that hand starts to go down, like right before that hand goes down, go up a little bit, like come back just a little bit. I mean, slight, and I mean like that much maybe, and then have them reach out, and and I think this little pause, like through the center here that you've got going on, like right there, puts the fingers down, starts to walk over. There's a little bit of a slide right here with the rotation like that. I would try to lock that in. Now, what, like on that finger, you want the hand to kind of pivot over this point. It's kind of hard to do, but it's not impossible. What I would suggest you do is take a locator, create a locator, and just put it right here. And then as that hand moves forward, when that finger, bend that finger so that it stays in that place as the hand moves as you want it to. And that'll just give you kind of a visual indicator of where that place should be. That should hold still as the pivot, and you can kind of fudge it and fake it there. You might have to go in like ones there in order to make that happen, but not impossible to do. And then same thing kind of happens like right here, that you have a pivot that's working pretty good right in through here. Starts to slide a little bit. That's okay, but the hand feels like the weight is coming down on it as that happens. So maybe lift the hand slightly as the finger comes back. Pressure's coming off, and that's what causes the hand to then come down and drop, and you get this touch that occurs here. Might bring the thumb down maybe a little bit more, to kind of open up this negative space and accentuate this line coming out. It's just a suggestion. I'm not sure if that will be an issue or would help or not help. And then on this here, where you've got the hand comes out, touches, I might see this in normal speed. It's almost like he kind of pushes at the hand. I would maybe try to pause it there just briefly too, like let the finger touch like that, and then instead of the fingers coming up and kind of pushing and the hand pushing away, make it more of a hand coming back this way, like he's pulling it back, but he's not like reaching out and kind of flicking at her, because that's what it feels like with the fingers coming up and the hand going like almost up. Right? It's going diagonal, but because the fingers are coming up, the volume feels like it's just lifting rather than retracting. Okay, so think of that in that kind of respect there. You can still get to this point, but it's going to be more of a scoop, back, a retreat back, and then a scoop up, and then have this wrist bend maybe a little bit more, like right in there. Keep that wrist more maybe at this angle with the fingers cupped, and then the hand can drop down. When the hand drops down, when the wrist bends like that, I would lower the arm a little bit, okay, instead of keeping it in a stationary position. And they see how they're kind of tied together. They move simultaneously. It's almost like they're connected in some way. So between his hand and her hand, that's something else to kind of be careful of and watch for as well. And see what else is going on here. As those fingers go, good. They all kind of unfold at the same time. You might offset them just slightly. Looks like you have it easing out, which is great. But maybe make the pinky finger, start a little bit more on the ring finger, and then the middle and the index finger kind of join in, okay, so that it doesn't feel like they're moving all together. You just overlap them slightly, and that'll soften them up a little bit. Like there, like this is, that's pretty. That's good. We get those two pinky and the ring finger going in at the same time. That's excellent. But you notice the thumb. The thumb is kind of locked in its position. It's not really changing much. It looks like you focused on the fingers here, but you didn't really look at what's going on with the thumb. And when that thumb happens, it's going to like cup in or come out. You're kind of missing that element where the finger's in or it's out. This happens quite a bit, even when I would bring the hands together, right? I'm kind of wide and I'm going narrow. That thumb comes in like this, and if I'm like this and I'm bringing those in, what happens to my thumb? My thumb kind of comes up to kind of cup next to it, or it could come in, like into here. Be careful, but you're going to have a little bit more of this kind of thing happening. You want that to be there. If it's just kind of still and nothing happens with it, it feels stiff and dead. Okay, so that keep that organic and alive as well. Okay, especially like right in here, in this, you want that. If you're going to do that, that thumb's going to come across to actually touch, on these two fingers. If this is happening like that, if it's like that, you want that to at least reach in a little bit, make contact. You want to see that. And then the timing on this second half here for that hand, let's take a look at that. That's good. And this is okay, but it feels almost like you're kind of reaching up to touch the fingers, like the wrist really would do. Maybe too strong. This feels like it's in motion, kind of thing, like it's like snapping around. So maybe soften up on the bend of the tip of the fingers a little bit, or make it bend, but make it bend at the end, like right here. So you have the fingers more this position on the contact down here, right? And then you're bending the fingers like this when the pressure of the hand goes on to the other fingers. You want it to be that. You want it to touch, and then I'm touching the finger. It's not a lot, but it's a little bit. We want to see the weight of the hand. We want to see the pressure on the finger, right? And it's like a little bit more contact than the previous one, right? Because there's confidence building and stuff. So something like that would, I think, definitely help out with that. These fingers kind of hold their position too. Think about maybe relaxing them a little bit more as that pressure goes on to the hand here, and what happens with the thumb as well. Okay, her hand, let's talk about hers. Let's see what's going on here. This ring finger feels like it's a little bit high. Bend it down a little bit so it feels more like it's making contact with here. And you might have some slight movement in the elbow, just enough to make sure that we understand this is alive. It's a very subtle thing, it's a very soft, like the elbow comes in a little bit, like maybe she's just placed her hand there. We didn't see that, but that's okay. But the elbow's kind of coming in and relaxing. Okay, that is really nice. You see how her hand, like when she gets touched there, her hand comes straight back, right? That's good. I would just do that a little bit with his too, right? Kind of mirror them a little bit, not exactly, but just a little bit. It gives us this visual idea that they're kind of similar, in their movement and in their mood. He's just as nervous and reacts just as much as to the touch in the same way as she reacts, and that kind of brings them together a little bit. Maybe not so different than we think, at least with this interaction. So think about that. But that's really nice there, and it's almost like she goes to put her hand back, right? It feels like that's what you're going for, like right there, like she's doing this. But what's going on with this here? It's almost like you want to see a little bit of movement out of his hand at that point, and that's what makes her kind of bring that hand back a little bit maybe, and then a total relaxing of this hand, so the tension's off, like she's confident that he's not going to do anything. Then the hand, her hand gets placed back, right? But his hand's still out there, so it's almost like, well, I'm going to place my hand back here. But we need some kind of visual indication that communicates through this that she is now safe to put her hand back. And I think a retreat of this hand, not fast, but a relaxation of the hand, maybe coming back more into here, which it's more on his side, would give maybe a little bit of an indication of that. Okay, that's great with those fingers. Try to overlap these fingers even a little bit as well. Remember the pinky and these two tend to move together quite a bit. These are a little bit more separate in their overlap. This, where she goes to place her hand down, it's almost like she's going, I'm going to put my hand down now. Maybe too pronounced, and I think you're trying to go for like cautious, but it's almost like, okay, let me put my hand here, let me get it ready, now I'm going to place my fingers down. It feels a little bit too purposeful, so you maybe blend that a little bit more, and try to get feeling a little bit more natural. You still keep the cautious, but feel natural with it, and change the pacing of that like slightly, I think will help. And then, what happens at this point? If he's interacting with her again, and all of a sudden we don't see like what happens left next, after all this buildup, we feel kind of cheated. Like before, I think you had her hand like grabbing his or whatnot. I don't think you need to go quite that far, but where you are here with this, it feels like I'm missing something. I'm not seeing something that I should be seeing, or even better yet, I want to see. So think of it, maybe it's just her pinky finger kind of comes up, his fingers comes back a little bit, and her pinky kind of lays on top of his, or his index finger here, in kind of, she's not grabbing the hand, but she's kind of saying, okay, well, it's okay, I can put my finger here, and maybe we'll see what happens next, if I'm comfortable with doing this, or what is he going to do, or whatever those types of questions kind of raise, and that's fine. At that point, it can be open-ended. We can kind of use our imagination, because we've seen that there's a reciprocation on the interaction, right? But if we see that there's another interaction, but we don't see the result of that action, then we feel cheated. Okay, so that would be something to kind of think about there, maybe with her fingers. For now, that's it. I mean, that's the only things I'm really seeing that I would suggest on, and working with maybe and exploring a little bit more.